I-12 tractor they made for 3 years. They made it in 1934, 1935, and 1936. This particular tractor is a 1936. They made 1,013 of them. That's all they made. It was only in production 3 years, and they made 1,013 of them. It weighs 3,200 pounds. It's got those solid cast wheels. That's why we had such a hard time with it. But it had those solid cast wheels on it. It gives it quite a bit of its weight. The I-12, they made 4 of them. They made an I, an O, a W, and a fairway. My youngest brothers had a friend a long time ago that lived down in Missouri, and he had a family farm down there, and he said he had a small steam engine. And we were just getting into collecting tractors, and we thought we was going to go down there and drag home a steam engine, a small one. So we hooked up the old Toyota truck to the trailer, and we headed for Missouri. And we met this guy at a gas station down there in no man's land. And he said, "Follow me and I'll take you to it." So we started following him down this old country road that was rock, and we went up the hills and down the hills, and the next thing you know, about 9 miles later, we stopped at the bottom of a creek. And he got out and he told us, he said, "You're going to need to drop your trailer right here," he said, "because there's no way to get your trailer back there." He said, "We've always used the creek to get back to the home place." So we dropped the trailer and set it aside on the side of the road there, and we started driving through this creek. Now, this creek had some spots in it that was washed out, and it had some logs in it, but we came prepared. We had saws, and we had all kinds of stuff. So we meandered down through this creek following this guy, and we come up on this old home place, and you could tell nobody had been there in years. And we pull up in the front yard, and we started looking around and figured out that somebody had been in there and had broke into the house and stole a bunch of stuff out of the house. And we went out to look where the little steam engine was at, and it was gone. Somebody had stole that, and it was just a mess. I don't know how they got it out of there, but you could see where it originally was sitting back in there. So he said to us, he said, "If you find anything laying around here that you want," he said, "I just want to get the place cleaned up." He said, "If you find anything around here that you want," he said, "you're more welcome to have it." So we started looking around, and I went up on the north end of the property there, and I was looking in the fence row, and this little rascal was laying in the fence row, and it was growed up. There was a tree growing alongside of it, and the fence row was all growed up. And I told my brother, I says, "I don't want to go home empty-handed." I said, "We come all the way down here." I said, let's see about cutting the trees down and getting this thing drug out of here. And it doesn't look too big and too heavy. Maybe we can get it on the trailer and get it home. He said, "All right." And we asked the guy, and the guy said, "Sure." He said, "If you want to get it out of here, you're more than welcome." So we started sawing down trees, and we had about 30 foot we had to clear to get to it. And we tied that old Toyota truck on there, and we yanked about a dozen times. He thought I was going to yank the back bumper off that old Toyota truck. But we got it out of there, and we tied a chain on the front of it. And the guy that owned the place, he said, "I'm going to go first, just in case you guys have problems pulling that thing through the creek." I said, "Okay." So I put the old Toyota in low four-wheel drive when we got to the creek, and man, was she pawing at the ground. We get about halfway down that creek, it wouldn't go anymore. This thing had 4 flat tires on it, and the tires were thumping around. My brother sitting on the back trying to steer it, and we got down there, and the Toyota dug a hole, and this thing fell off in the hole, and there we sat. Well, this guy had a 4-wheel drive Blazer, so he tied the Blazer on the front of the Toyota and give me a pretty good yank, and almost yanked him off the tractor. But we got her down the creek, we got her loaded up on the trailer with a come-along, and we headed home. We got it home, we didn't even know what the thing was. And he started doing a little bit of research on it, and I started tearing it apart, and it was in pretty bad shape, It was left in the fence row for a reason. So I pulled the radiator out of it, I pulled the engine out of it, we gutted it. We took all the junk tires and wheels off of it. We had it sitting on blocks, and we started finding pieces and parts and this and that. We oven welded the tanks to the top and bottom tanks to the radiator where they were broken, and we put a new core in it, and just all kinds of repairs. But in 1934, 35, and 36, when they built the I-12, they were all built in Chicago, Illinois, by the Chicago, Illinois Tractor Works. So this is a picture of it about a week after we drug it home. That's what it looked like. 4 tires ready to flop off of it. I mean, it was there, but it was, you can tell it was in some pretty wonderful shape. Nice shape, isn't it? Well, you know, that's the way we found it in the fence row, and that's, you know, you can see how much fun we had dragging it home when you stop and think about all them tires being flat and trying to drag that thing through the creek. That was, that little Toyota truck didn't have a chance dragging that thing, but there's a picture of it with a hole in the radiator. I was surprised that they put a PTO on these little tractors, but they did. But if you look down there, you'll see that it's got great big shoe brakes on the back of it, on both sides. Almost made like an S-cam brake on a truck, but pretty heavy duty. Pretty heavy duty. And this drawbar, that was another part of it that they, you know, the individual wheel brakes was a part of the I-12, and then this heavy duty drawbar, that was another part of it. But here's a look at your steering again. Little 4-cylinder engine. Clutch, fenders. There's your choke lever. We built that exhaust because we really didn't know what the exhaust is even supposed to look like. We never did really find a good picture of the exhaust, so we just kind of put that on there. So if you look at the wheels on the back of it, they're solid cast iron. This thing is so heavy, it's unbelievable. We had somebody make these decals. We never could find any decals for it. But show you a quick look at it here. It's jammed in here so tight that I can't start the thing. There's no way to get to it to start it. But I was going to show you these front tires too, how I've never seen a tire made like that, but they're a forklift maybe. They're solid and they come apart in 2 pieces so you can get a tire on them. But you talk about heavy. Oh my goodness, they're heavy. There you can see that new core we had to put in that radiator. And the top and bottom tanks were broken. We had to weld them all back together again. That was quite the episode, getting that radiator apart and getting the mag was missing. We had to get another mag for it, and we just had a lot of things that we had to come up with as far as missing parts. We still need to fix this little bracket right here that holds the fender. We never did get around to doing that. Look at a radiator there on the front. And there's your crank. We built a little crank holder to hold the crank. We get it out about every couple of years and start the thing up and let it run, clean the shop out a little bit, and it needs to get out and get started now. It's been sitting here way too long.